Now, today we're in the last day of our sermon series called Be Rich. Now, many of us, and I think this is the case for some of us, like we go through life and we think if we had more stuff, if we had more possessions, if we had more money, then we would be happy, then we'd be fulfilled. But I think that all of us know, and I really think that we know this, especially in our heads, that we are more than what we have. Do you hear that? You are more than what you have. Instead of trying to be rich, I think that it's so helpful that we can realize that we are already rich. We have what we need to be content, to experience joy in life. So we've looked at this for 4 weeks now. The first week we just said, okay, we're rich. Like, you remember the thing, $33,000 a year? If your household makes $33,000 a year, that puts you in the top 1% of all people in the world as far as your income. So we're rich, and there's good news with that. We have opportunities that rich people have. We have conveniences that rich people have. Some of us have luxuries that rich people have. Now, there's also a challenge that goes along with this. The challenge is it becomes tough when we have this much stuff, when we have resources that exceed our current, or at least our perceived current needs, that it becomes tough for us to trust in God. It becomes easy to get distracted because we're very distractible people. Jesus says that when much is given, or to whom much is given, much is required. So there's a responsibility that goes along with our blessedness. Now, week 2, we looked at really the deceitfulness of wealth. Now, money is going to make you promises that it simply can't keep. The great theologian, I'm not sure which one it was either Paul McCartney or John Lennon, they said that money can't buy you love. And these two Brits were right, it doesn't. Someone else said that money can't buy you happiness, and it doesn't. Money will make promises that it simply can't keep. Money will make promises that only God will keep. We said that if you love something or if you love someone, you always want what? You want more and more and more. So if we love money, we're always going to be wanting more. We're never going to be satisfied. 2 weeks ago we looked at since we have more, we're going to do what? We're going to give more. We're going to be more generous. We don't want to be below average when it comes to generosity. And last week we looked at the good deeds, that because we have more, we are going to do more. Because we have more opportunities. Because we have more resources at our disposal to do more good for more people and to make a bigger difference in our families, in our city, and in our world. Now, I've got a question for you, and I really want you to think about this. Where is it that you spend much of your time? Where is it that you spend most of your energy? And I would say as well, where is it that you spend or save or invest most of your money? Now, the reason I ask you these questions is because where we put our energy, where we put our time, where we put our money, those are our true priorities. Not our stated priorities. I mean, you can say anything's your priority. But I would say, where is it that we spend our time? Where is it that we spend our energy? Where is it that we spend our money? That's where our true priorities. Now, Jesus pretty much said the same thing. Jesus said, where your treasure is, your heart is as well. So these are a reflection of our priorities. Now, Jesus, and we look at this, he's talked about money more than he talked about anything else and everything else. And here in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 13, he is talking about money. He's using this to teach us about life because money is part of our everyday life. So in Luke chapter 12, verses 13 through 21, here's how it goes. Someone in the crowd. So it's important to hear, someone in the crowd. This is not one of his 12 disciples. This is not Mary or Martha. This isn't one of the people that hang out with him a lot. This is someone random from a crowd. So someone in the crowd said, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Now, you're thinking from American in 2014 that this makes no sense, but we have to put this one in cultural context. So back in this culture, say if there's like 2 kids, like a boy and a girl, and the mom or dad dies or whatever, usually there's like a 50% inheritance, like this kid gets this and this kid gets that, and it's pretty equal. But this was not the way that it was during biblical times. During biblical times, it would have been that the oldest son would have gotten most of it. Probably as little as 2/3 and as much as like 75 to 80%. So this is obviously one of the younger sons. He is, telling Jesus, he says, hey, this isn't fair. I mean, this guy's got all this land, he's got all these workers, he's got all these resources, and will you tell him to divide this inheritance with me? Now, Jesus replied, man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you? Then he said to them, watch out. Now, this is like for us as well. This is good stuff. He says, watch out. Be on guard against all kinds of greed. Now, what Jesus speaks next, I think, is one of the biggest truths of life. Jesus says, life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Now, I think we know this up here, don't we? I think you know that life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. But I would challenge, it's like, how many of us are actually living that way? Now, the word that Jesus uses for life, and there's two choices he has here, but he chooses the word Zoe. Now, what Zoe means is, it means like life, like the stuff that's important. Like the ability to laugh, the ability to cry, the ability to relate to someone, the ability to connect to someone, the ability to love or be loved by somebody. This is like life at its deepest level, and this is the word that Jesus has chosen to use. And he says, this type of life, the life that really matters, this type of life, it consists of more than possessions. So then Jesus tells a story, and we find this in verse 16. And then Jesus told them a parable. Okay, the ground of a certain rich man. Now, I would say if we're sitting here today, that we're rich. So this doesn't apply to some guy like, 2,000 years ago. This doesn't apply to everyone who has more money than you. This applies to all of us. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what should I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus again. Now you're thinking, okay, this must be a really rough problem to have. Like this guy's got this farm, he's got more crops than he knows what to do with. Yeah, I'm really having a tough time like feeling sorry for this guy. But you know what? Let me just take a little poll here. Who here has a 3-car garage? Just real quick, show of hands. Okay, so a lot of people have 3-car garages, and who here have a 3-car garage that just have so much stuff in it that you don't have room for anything else? Anybody? Okay, so you know what this guy is going through here. Like, he's got more stuff than what about this one? Not all of you raise your hands, so I'm going to have to keep going here. Who in here has a closet? Anybody? Does anybody have a closet? All right, cool. Now, think about your closet for a second, okay? Does your closet have like more stuff than you know what to do, and like it's crowded and you have to go through your closet and look for stuff because there's so much stuff? Anybody? Okay, good. I'm glad Amber's not the only one. And okay, so like here, this is not like this rich guy having too much grain. This is us. Like we have a lot of stuff. We have too much stuff. We're rich. We're blessed. So here's what he said he will do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Does anyone, just real quick, I'm going to go back. Does anyone here have a storage unit? Show of hands. All right, cool. A friend of mine has a storage unit. It's a great business. I actually called him up, wanted a space in it, and he didn't have any room, so I know that some of y'all have storage units. This is what's going on here. I'll tear down my barns and I'll build bigger ones, and there I'll store my surplus of grain. And I'll say to myself, okay, so now you got like this bigger house, you got the storage unit, you got a bigger bathroom, a bigger garage, and now I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years, so what's he going to do next? Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. Has anyone ever tried that plan for like long-term contentment and joy and fun in life? Eat, drink, be merry. It doesn't work. It works for like 5 hours, and it doesn't work after that. But God said to him, and I love this word in the Greek, but God said to him, you fool. Now, here I'm thinking like what God's thinking is that I just wish that Jesus could be a little bit more assertive here, but I know that people are going to be reading this in the future, and I don't want to offend anyone by being politically correct, so he just says, you fool. There's a lot of other words he could have used. Now, this is a truth of life, all right? This very night, your life will be demanded from you. then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? Now, this is just the truth of life. Like, it's going to happen. Whether it's tonight or whether it's like 10 years from now or whether everything changes in 5. I mean, it happens. Like, it does. We got a guy, and I'll have you pray for him. Jason Combs, he's the guy that usually does the video stuff here. I told him we'd pray for him today, and his dad died yesterday out in Colorado. I went over and prayed with him and Jolie and the girls yesterday, and this is life. It happens. We're storing up our treasures for this reward that we might even not be around for. There's another family in our church, Jim and Judy Warner. This happened to them yesterday morning, but their house started on fire. Neither of them were home. Thankfully, no one's hurt. I drove by the house, talked to Judy for a little bit, and we're building barns that the moths are going to come in and eat. The rust is going to come. The fire is going to come. I mean, we're doing this stuff, and Jesus says, like, we're fools. Now, he says in verse 21, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. Now, there is something you have to know from this parable and this teaching of Jesus here. And it's imperative that you know this. Jesus is not condemning this man for being rich. He just isn't. I mean, it's not in the text. You're not going to find it. You can read 1,000,000 times. It's not in there. Because, God is the one who blesses us. We look at this last 4 weeks. God blesses us for what? For our enjoyment. The same reason that we give our kids gifts is we want them to enjoy them. God gives us this stuff because God wants us to enjoy these things. Now, he was condemning this man. He called him a fool, not for being rich, but for being rich in the wrong way. For being rich in a bad way. He was rich, but he was rich, what, toward himself? He was not rich in the things that mattered the most. He was rich in things toward himself. Now, as I look around this room, I see some of the richest people I know. I really do. Some of you are, but many of us are not the wealthiest people I know, but some of you are the richest people that I know because you got this stuff figured out. You know that life is not about building bigger barns. You know that there's so much more to life than that. You know that life consists more of just possessions. And let's get this up on the screen. We've looked at this the last 4 weeks. This is the last time you'll see this for a while. But you know this. Like, this is how to be rich. It says that, let's go to the next screen if we can. God has blessed me. Okay, so God has blessed me with more than I need. I am what? I am rich. Okay, now I'm not going to trust in riches. I'm not going to trust in creation. I'm not going to trust in riches, but in the one who richly... Okay, so we're not going to trust in creation. We're going to trust in the Creator. And because I am rich, I am going to be more generous. I'm going to give more. And because I am rich, I am going to do more. Now, this is how to be rich. Like, eating and drinking and being married, that's not going to work long term. Building these bigger barns that are eventually going to collapse, that's not going to work long term. Now, I want to just take a look at this one last time, what this means for us, the church, what this means for us as families, and what this means for us as individuals. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to be rich in good deeds. Now, 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 18, it says, command them, the rich people, to do good, to be rich in good deeds. Now, to review, this is so important. We're not saved because of good deeds. We're not saved because of good works. We're saved through faith in Jesus Christ alone, and nothing else. Now that we're saved, we are saved for good works. We're saved so that we can do good things in this world to make a difference, to partner with God, to bring His kingdom amongst us. Now, who we are, and when we can realize that we're blessed, when we can realize that we're rich, when we can realize that God has given us favor for one reason, then that shapes what we do. Who we are shapes what we do. Now I want to go to 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 12. Live such good lives among the pagans, that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day that He visits us. So I'm just going to make this real, like for the church, okay? You're all here this morning, and this is an amazing thing, but every Sunday morning with no exceptions, there's a group of generally like 4 to 8 men that come. And there's this trailer with all our stuff on it. And what they do is they unload this trailer, they take it to the classrooms for our kids, they take it to the commons area for all of us, they bring stuff in here. And they set up and they're going to stay late and they're going to tear down. And what they are is they're rich in good deeds. And the reason they're rich in good deeds is because they know and they believe that what happens here on Sunday morning can make a difference in people's lives throughout the week. They're rich in good deeds. Right now, there are men and women and students as well who are holding our babies. These babies are not theirs. These babies are somebody else's. There are men and women and middle school students and high school students who are teaching our kids. And the reason they do these things is for some of us who have kids, we can have a more enjoyable worship experience if our kids are somewhere else. But the main reason they're doing this is because they love these kids and they're seeking to love them into a relationship with Jesus Christ. They are rich in good deeds. You know, there's people that greeted us at the front door this morning. There's people who handed us programs. There's people who are responding to questions. There's a band. Like, these guys just don't show up like at 8:58 and leave at 11:32 with no practice. These guys work their tails off because they want to lead us into worship, because they believe that worship makes a difference. They are rich in good deeds. Now, this is where I want you to go. This is where I want to go with this, okay? Every week, every single week, before people hear the gospel, something much more important happens. People see the gospel. And long after the gospel message is given, people will continue to see the gospel. And I would say in our lives, let's let people see the gospel in us. Let's let our words be, servants to our actions. Let's let people look at us and say, you are who you say you are. Now think about this, like even in our community, we're not about like a Sunday morning worship experience. That's a part of who we are. Yeah, but the really cool thing is, like, we have a guy that he goes down to the Douglas County Youth Detention Center every week. That's like every week, like 7 days he's down there leading a Bible study for these kids who are in jail. He's doing his good deeds. We have a guy who works downtown. Every Monday night, he makes dozens of sandwiches. Every Tuesday at noon, he goes out and about, and he finds homeless people to give these sandwiches to. He does good deeds. There's going to be over 100 people in Omaha that have Thanksgiving dinner because of us, because of you and your generosity. All those bags that you brought last week are going to be distributed to people if they already haven't been. And they're going to have Thanksgiving dinner because of your good deeds. I was talking to Chris Syme. He's run the video today, and Chris just got back from Uganda. And Chris was able to give out medicine. He was able to give out vitamins. He was able to do HIV and malaria tests. He was able to give out mosquito nets because of your generosity. It was his good deed, but it was us helping him do that. And Chris, that was just a really cool thing. And I know you're blessed because of that. But that's what happens when we as a team, as we as a church, do these good deeds together. That they are going to what? They're going to know that we are Christians by our love. Now, in addition to being rich in good deeds, God wants us to be rich in generosity. So listen to this. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 25. Okay, a generous person, it doesn't say a rich person. It doesn't say a wealthy person. It says a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Okay, so could anybody in here use some refreshing? You're just kind of tired and worn out and wondering if it's all worth it, and all of a sudden we want to be refreshed. Well, the way that the Bible tells us to do it is to be generous. Now, there's some risk that goes along with this, and I'm aware of the risk. Like anytime we're generous, there's this risk. And if you're an economist, you know that there's this thing called risk, but on the other side of risk is a reward, and rewards are not going to happen unless there's some risk that happens before that. Now, generosity is a risk. We're risk giving up something today for something we may not be able to see tomorrow, but we're just so impressed that there's going to be this reward that we're going to do it anyway. This happened about 6 years ago. Might have been 7 years ago. There's a woman that called me up. It was late one Saturday night, and sometimes I get calls from people, on money, wine, help, and if I can do it, I will. If I don't think they're being very forthcoming, I don't. But this woman, I just heard something in her voice, and she needed help. yeah, I don't know how many people, I don't know if I was the first person she called or the 10th person, but there was something in her voice that said, you got to help her. She said that she was being abused by her significant other. She said there was a place up in Sioux Falls that was going to take her. She had no way to get up there. She looked for a bus ticket, and it was going to cost like $150 or something like that. Wondered if I could help her. And yeah, I don't know if you remember that, Amber, but it was late on a Saturday night, and I called up a friend of mine. He used to be part of our church. He moved out to Central Nebraska. He's a high school principal now, Jay Vance. And I picked Jay up, and we went down, and this is the part of town I hadn't ever been to before. It was like 30th and Lake Street or something like that. And we got down there. We found the woman. She came out. I started talking to her. She showed me like the internet receipt for a bus ticket. Now I have no idea if she was scamming me. I have no idea if it was for a bus ticket. There was some risk involved with that as well. Then between like two houses, like these two guys came out at me and Jay and started talking to us, asked us, what you doing down there? And I said, well, I'm Pastor Craig Finnestead, just out and about doing some ministry tonight. This is Jay Vance. And then he said to me, he says, you don't look like a pastor to me. Now, what I said and what I thought were two totally different things. What I'm thinking is like, people tell me that all the time. I don't need to hear that from you. What I said, no, I'm with Faith Westwood United Methodist Church, and we're just out here serving people tonight, and I asked if there's any way that you can, I could pray for him. And he basically told me that I need to leave, and I need to leave right away, and I need to mind my own business. And he didn't know that I was already praying. Jay and I got in the car, we left. We talked on the way back home, and I think Benjamin was probably 5 or 6 at the time, and I think Jay just had one kid at the time, a newborn. Ethan was probably 1 or 2, I'm guessing. What we talked about, though, on the way home was refreshment. I don't know if she needed help or not, but if she did, we did. That's the way it works out. And I'll tell you this, and I'm not saying you have to do this. I'm just giving us an example that there is risk. There is risk before reward comes. There's risk before refreshment. And when we started to really embrace and practice and live out generosity, there's some risk that goes with that. But there's some reward. You guys get this. And I was telling one of the groups, we had those 4 or 5 in-home meetings with people about just kind of what's coming up at the church, with the building, all that sort of stuff. And you guys get this. And one of the things I said at every meeting is every single time, and this has gone on for 7 or 8 years now, every single time, no exceptions, we've asked for something, and you have exceeded what we've asked for, because you guys get this. You really do. It's amazing, and you understand that there's a risk, but you understand that there is a reward as well. And it's so cool. I just love running or driving by 195th and Harrison Street. What I saw there was a bunch of people willing to take a risk, knowing that the reward is going to come a long time down the road in the future. You've inspired me. You've inspired a lot of people through your generosity, and it has not been without risk. And the last thing is that God wants us to be rich in relationships. Now, Jesus says in John chapter 13, verses 34 and 35, a new command I give you, that you should love one another as I have loved you. So the bar is set really high here, okay? Is he has loved us, so you must now love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. I'm going to tell you that one of the greatest blessings in your life is sitting in this room right now. Now, some of you may be very well aware of that blessing. Maybe you're holding their hand, or you got their arm around them, or you're right next to them. But I would say that there's future blessings in this room that you don't even know this person yet. We have probably almost 70-80% of our people that are in a small group community. Now, it's rare for a church to have that high of a participation, but the reason this works is because y'all have been blessed by this. And I see it time and time and time again as a pastor that y'all love each other. Now, the world does not need more dysfunctional relationships. The world does not need more people arguing about what's right or what's wrong. What the world needs is more people who will love each other. And when we can love each other as families, when we can love each other as individuals, when we can love each other as members of a church, then the world is going to know that we are his disciples. And it's only then that they're going to want to be part of who we are and what we do and who we serve. So I want to have us share a meal as our worship experience is closing right now. And today, with this meal, we get to remember Jesus himself, who was serving the Last Supper. And Jesus, he blessed the bread, he took the bread, he broke it, and he said, "Friends, this is my body. This is my body that is given for you. When you eat of this," listen to what he says, "when you eat of this, do so in remembrance of me." So one of the things I want us to remember about Jesus, he tells us when we do this, that we get to remember him. One of the things I want us to remember is that he was just relentless. He was absolutely relentless in doing good deeds. This is something that it was who he was, and it was because it was who he was. This is because what he did, and we get to remember that Jesus did this. Now we also get to remember about Jesus and the way that he related to other people. I said that we can be rich. We can be rich in relationships. And how did Jesus do that? He listened. He learned. He shared. He gave. He forgave. He did all this stuff. So as you take the bread, I want us to remember who Jesus was. And likewise, as the meal is ending, Jesus took the wine. He blessed it. He gave thanks. And he said, "Friends, this is my blood. It's the blood of the new covenant that has been poured out for you and the forgiveness of your sins. When you drink of this, do so in remembrance of me." Now, Jesus was the model for generosity. He actually gave his life. He gave everything. There was nothing left. He gave his life, when he was living, and he gave his life when he was dying for all of us. And as we take this juice today, I just pray that we remember that we're forgiven because of his generosity, and that we can model this type of generosity to other people as well, to lead people in a relationship that will glorify God. So let us pray.